Welcome. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday or whatever day it is that you are watching this. I'm just going to give folks a couple seconds to join. All right. As always, if you see my eyes moving in different directions, hello. If you see my eyes moving in different directions, it is because I am simultaneously live on Instagram and on LinkedIn. This is part of my 90-day commitment, Monday through Friday, same time every day, to hosting a live to just check in and share a lesson. And to be honest about my journey and hopefully encouraging you all to know that you're not alone in whatever struggles you're going through in your life. And today I wanted to talk about getting organized for the week. And never joined a live quicker. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that so much. You're the best. Okay, so I want to talk about spending our Mondays or Sundays really gearing up for the week, organizing all of our priorities, and just setting ourselves up for success. Okay. There is a quote by a writer named Annie Dillard I want to share with you. I think it's so good. I think about it all the time. She says, how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. Deep, huh? Like real deep. And I don't know if any of you all have ever heard of that expression before, but really life is made in not just our days, but in the moment. And I know a lot of you who might be watching could be feeling very overwhelmed, like you have a never-ending to-do list and you don't know how to prioritize, how to manage your time correctly. And not just manage your time correctly, but what about manage yourself? Okay. Like all of the internal obstacles that you have. What are the things that are preventing you from having a week that you are just feeling so proud of? Okay. No matter what you accomplished or didn't accomplish, I want to set you up so that by Friday, or I guess by next Monday, or whenever, 7 days from when you watch this, you can say, you know what? I've lived my life in the way that I wanted. And it doesn't matter what the external circumstances were. It doesn't matter if you are in a job you hate, you still managed your life in a way that you can be proud of. That is the goal. I normally take about 30 minutes for these lives. So we'll see how today goes. But welcome to those who are just joining. Okay, so let me walk you through the process of everything that I have had to learn from going from a place of massive ADHD. I am not naturally organized. Let me tell you that. I'm not even naturally self-motivated. I just don't want to work for somebody else, really. But I had to truly learn how to create systems for myself, particularly systems of organization, systems of systems that helped create conditions where I could be successful. And I've just done it over time, trial and error, emphasis on error. Okay. So everything that I suggest to you today in regards to how to set yourself up for success for the week, in picking your priorities, in organizing all of your to-dos, this is what's worked for me. But I encourage you to look at this as an opportunity to experiment for yourself. So, take some notes, rewatch this, try it. But if parts of it doesn't work, great. You just want to tailor it for what makes sense for you, because we're all different. All right, so let me begin with the mega brain dump that I like to do at the beginning of the week of everything and anything that I need to get done. Now, this may overwhelm you. In fact, it probably should, right? Because you want to accomplish a lot of things, right? You're ambitious. So there's a lot of shit you want to get done. But notice we're not at the place where we've selected any priorities yet. We haven't put it into our calendar. We haven't set ourselves up for success. So don't indulge the feelings of overwhelm. Just do a mega brain dump of all the things that you need to be working on. I really like the platform Todoist. It's a great way to organize. I've tried many of these different platforms. And what I love about it is you can have lots of labels and subtasks. So as you have this brain dump of everything you need to get done, start to break it down into its tiniest components of all the subtasks. I think this is so important to do. I'm seeing hearts. I'm seeing that you all agreeing with me. This is so important to do because later on, you're going to be estimating how long you think it's going to take you to actually accomplish these things. And if you don't write out all of those subtasks, you are going to underestimate Okay. You're going to think, oh, I can get this done in a day. When in fact, it's not one thing you're doing, it's like 10 subtasks related. So, set yourself up for success by writing out all those subtasks related to those initiatives you need to do. Now it's time to pick which initiatives take priority. If you work for somebody else, you want to confirm this with them. It's not going to make you look bad. This isn't going to make you look like you don't know what you're doing. It's going to make you look like you care about being successful and you care about what the other person thinks. Especially if you're not going to them and just simply asking them what to prioritize, which puts the onus on them to do the work for you, but instead showing them, hey, here are the 5 initiatives ranked in order of priority that I'm going to be working on this week. I want to confirm we are on the same page. I cannot stress that enough. Okay. Now, if you work for yourself and you are looking at all these things you have to accomplish and you're wondering what takes priority, I like to ask myself 2 questions to help figure out the answer to this. Number 1, if I work on this thing, how direct of a line from working on it to making money? Now, that doesn't mean you only work on the things that immediately make you money, because sometimes focusing on short-term financial success actually long-term can hurt you. So we're not there yet, but it is a good question to ask. If I do this initiative, how quickly can I make money, or how direct of a line is it to making money? The second question to determine if this is the right priority for you to be focusing on is, if you work on it, will it make other things easier? Is there going to be what I like to call a cascade effect based on this? Okay. So let me give you a good example. You're in it right now. These lives. Okay. This is new for me. So this is the second week where I've committed to 5 days of lives. Okay. Why would I focus on creating lives? Well, I know that my goal is to increase the number of subscribers on Ladies Get Paid social channels, also on our email list. Part of that is providing content, live content. But guess what I also can do? I now can put this content into a platform that then cuts it up into shorter social clips that we can then use later on to, again, attract subscribers, provide value, things like that. Okay. I also can use these as ways to experiment with new content, right? If there's maybe a concept that I'm really excited about, but I haven't yet, done a whole webinar on it, I can now test it and see what the reaction is. Also, it's practice for me. It's also a way to practice following through and commitment, right? Of the accountability. So there are a lot of reasons why doing a live every day is this high priority. It also can be called a leveraged priority, right? So doing something that then makes other things easier. So I would encourage you, as you look at all the initiatives that you have going on, which ones can you focus on that, if you do, can then have that cascade effect? Now, next question. Okay, so now you've decided, all right, it's these 2 initiatives or 3 initiatives that fulfill that leverage priority. Okay. You've seen all the subtasks required to get them done, because we already did that. You've also estimated, how long do you think this is going to take you? Now, there's something called Parkinson's Law. You might have heard of it before, which says work expands to fill the allotted time given for its completion. Meaning, if you give yourself 5 days to get something done, it'll probably take you 5 days to get it done. Well, how about challenging yourself? How about 5 hours to get it done? Doesn't mean it has to be 5 hours all at once, but chances are you actually get it done within those 5 hours. However, there is a balance to be had here, because if you say that something's going to take you 5 hours when in fact it should be taking you 5 days, you are setting yourself up not for success. You're setting yourself up to be quite disappointed. However, I'm concerned if you give yourself too much lead time to accomplish something, you're going to wait to the last minute. You're not going to prioritize it. You're going to take your sweet time, so look at all of this as just a way to experiment. It is the first kind of trial run that you're giving yourself to see how accurate you can be on estimating how long something will actually take you. Okay. Now I have something exciting to share with you about determining when you should be doing these initiatives during the week. Okay. When should you be focusing on these priorities? I would love for you to put these initiatives into categories of the kind of work, the kind of energy that it will require of you. In my own life, as I've reflected, I realized my work kind of divides into the following categories. Some activities require imagination. right? Brainstorming, some require performance like this, or meetings would be performance. Some require deep focus and some require shallow focus. And you can get even more specific within those categories, like within deep focus, sometimes it's more analytic work, okay? Then there's other things like errands, those other kinds of activities, which maybe would be shallow focus. What I love about categorizing my work based on the kind of energy it requires is then I can determine in a given week when is the optimal time to do this activity. So it's matching my natural energy, my circadian rhythm, with the kind of activity, and the kind of energy that's required. So if I realize that I do my best kind of imagination type work in the morning, then that's when I'm going to be working on that, right? Now, the only way you're going to figure this out for yourself is if you start tracking your time and your energy. And I know this requires you to do more work on top of a never ending to-do list, but hear me out. You got to really do the trial and error and get to know yourself for you to fly. So spending this time up front, tracking your time and energy, and really digging into all of the tasks you need to get done and playing around with optimal times in your schedule, it will have dividends for you. Okay. By the way, if you're curious what a circadian rhythm is, I'll just read you a definition real quick. It's a 24-hour cycle that's part of the body's internal clock. It runs in the background, helping you carry out essential functions and processes. And it works by helping to make sure that your body's processes are optimized at various points. I mean, really, it's related to sleep and light. Okay. All right. So you're looking at all of the activities that you need to get done. You've hopefully assigned them into various categories based on kind of the energy that's required. This is when you might have heard of something called batch tasking can come into play, right? So this is when you would sort of put similar activities together, right? So if you have a bunch of meetings, so this is kind of the performance category. If you scatter those meetings throughout the week and right after the meeting, you go into deep focus analytical work, you're probably going to have a little bit of trouble because switching between the energy that's required of performing into the energy that's required of deep focus analytical work, to do that automatically is really, really difficult. There's going to be that kind of like transition time. So it might behoove you to experiment with maybe keeping your meetings all in one day, like stacking them on Thursdays and Fridays. Maybe you do your deep focus work on Mondays and Tuesdays. The morning is meant for brainstorming or whatever. Like you'll experiment with yourself. But point being, I think what's universal for everybody is probably batching similarly typed energy work together. So you don't do that kind of switching back and forth. All right. The other thing I want you to be thinking about is focus. How long does it typically, when you sit down to do work, at what point do you realize, I'm just procrastinating? Of course, we're going to, challenge ourselves to push it a little bit further than we normally do, but I want us to be realistic here. So can you go for 30 minutes doing that kind of focus work? How about 60 minutes? How about 90 minutes? Maybe no more than that. So again, even if you're saying, I'm going to spend my Monday and Tuesday on my primary focus, my primary priority, that's good and fine, but are you really going to do it all day? You're probably only going to be able to focus for, again, 30, 60, or 90-minute intervals. But again, I want you to experiment with that. The other thing, so then we're going to look at our calendars for the day. This is the time where we have to put it on the calendar. Otherwise, at least in my world, it doesn't exist. Like if you're not on my calendar, we're not having a meeting. I just don't remember it. So put your tasks on the calendar. And this is a great way not only to hold yourself accountable, but also to set boundaries. People should not be able to schedule meetings with you when you are trying to do your deep focus work, right? Put it on there. When you look at your calendar, first see what is on your calendar that maybe shouldn't be. And on the other side, what isn't currently on your calendar that should be. And let me make a suggestion for you. Buffer times. I'm obsessed with these. So let's say you have a meeting in an hour. I want you to go put on your calendar maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, perhaps before and after the meeting, or at least after the meeting, buffer time. Don't just assume that you're going to be able to, again, jump into another task. Don't let somebody set up a back-to-back meeting with you. You are running a marathon here, okay? Life is lived in the moments, but we also got to think long-term here, and I don't want you to burn out. And so a way to prevent burnout is to schedule in those breaks, those buffer times in between all the other things you need to get done. And a way to hold yourself accountable to actually following through on that break, actually respecting that break, is maybe put in on your calendar something that you're going to be doing during the break. I mean, it could be sitting there with your eyes shut and meditating. Put that on your calendar. Walking outside. So don't just say break or buffer time. Literally put the activity that you are going to be doing. Okay. All right. Next thing, and for those who are just joining live, we are talking about how to set ourselves up for success in the week, really organizing our schedule, all of our to-dos, and all of our focuses. And here's another one that's my favorite. Make a plan for your obstacles. We so often plan for the ideal, and then life happens, and we are not prepared for it, or we're very disappointed because things didn't go to plan. Well, if you plan for the obstacles, that's again creating kind of that like buffer space for you to just be realistic with life. So I want you to reflect on this coming week. What are all of the obstacles, internal and external, that you can think of that may stand in your way of getting these things done? Okay. As you reflect on your obstacles, potential obstacles, a great way to make a plan is around what the triggers might be. Okay. So looking in the past, all right, well, a big issue I have is procrastination. Well, to just deal with procrastination is such a huge topic. So maybe let's break down procrastination further into what kinds of procrastination do you tend to do and when do they happen? And not just the immediate trigger before the procrastination, but like back it up a little bit. There were probably a number of things that happen that then, trigger the procrastination. That's how you're going to be able to develop a plan around it. A plan that works is when you are being very realistic about the triggers. So anticipating all the obstacles in your way of accomplishing your priorities, what can you do preventatively to try to deal with this? So if it's an issue of, let's say, focus, and you know that you tend to like go on your phone a lot, preventatively, easy, get the phone out of the room. If you're worried about missing a phone call, then make sure it's connected to your computer, right? So the calls will come through and you'll still get them. In the moment, though, let's also think about if and when this obstacle still happens, like maybe you have a colleague, right, or a boss, like people are constantly slacking you, and preventatively you could put up an away message, but they still get through the message. I want you to make a plan about what you will do in the moment when that obstacle actually happens. How will you deal with it so that you can transition as seamlessly as possible from experiencing the obstacle back into your deep focus or back into your priorities? Okay. Then I want you to set up a way to track everything all week so that by Friday, Sunday, or Monday, or whenever it is that you want to have your planning session, you can be making a plan based on what actually happened. So again, setting yourself up for success, it's not about the ideal or even what I'm saying, right? Because again, this is only working for me. I'm just sharing my journey here. But for you, you're going to be making tweaks based on how you actually handled your to-do list, right? And so a couple of suggestions for ways to track or things to track success. Just start, with a spreadsheet of the day and the time. And every time that you do an action, just write down what time it was, the action, and maybe any notes that you have. So if you're trying to better understand your circadian rhythm, maybe you want to make a note about the energy. Or maybe, you're really trying to improve the way that you handle obstacles. So you're doing an action and maybe you make a note, okay, inner critic popped up at this point, right? Imagine yourself like a scientist and you're collecting data so that you can then tweak the data, make a hypothesis that's based on the data. And we are looking to optimize just a little bit each time. Now, at the end of the week, when you review that time tracker, you can see how accurate were you in the estimates that you gave yourself for how long something would take. Did you break down your to-dos into tiny enough chunks, or do we need to do more than that? Where was there any kind of leakage, like time leakage or energy leakage, right? When did your focus get pulled? Was it internal or external? What were the consequences of it? And then just a 1% improvement. That's the goal week after week, not making radical life changes because that's just not going to stick or happen at all. But how can we do things, approach things just a little bit differently next week? And so another exercise that I'd like to close out with that helps me not just with setting myself up for success in a given week, but even in just a given day. I like to close my eyes and imagine that it is the end of the day, the end of the week, and I am lying in bed and I'm smiling because I am so damn proud of myself. What happened, right? How did you get there to a point of pride? And so try to focus on things that you can control. So instead of saying, I'm going to be proud of myself if I apply to 100 jobs, I don't want you to do that because ultimately it's not real. That part's like not as much in control as you think it is. Like life will get in the way and maybe you'll only apply to 50 jobs or something else happened that took more of a priority and you couldn't apply to any for good reason. So what are things you can control? Well, how you relate to yourself. How about that? So how about more compassion or patience, right? Could you, in the moment when you're experiencing an obstacle, shift the way that you view it so that you're able to handle it a little bit better? Maybe tracking things, right? Maybe that's a way to be proud of yourself. Hey, listen, I'm going to approach this week with a scientist mindset, experiment, track my data, and I'm going to challenge myself to learn just something new this week, right? That is success, okay? That's a lot of information in a small amount of time, but I hope or I believe that you probably got some good takeaways out of it. Again, it's always trial and error, but to just quickly recap, the way to not feel overwhelmed by your to-do list is, first of all, recognize you are ultimately in control of your to-do list, even if you have a boss breathing down your neck, okay, kids breathing down your neck. How you feel about your to-do list is entirely within your control. Nobody else is dictating that to you. All right. And how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. Make a brain dump of all the things that you want to work on with subtasks related to them. Select the ones that are going to have the biggest impact on your life or your bottom line, the ones that will have a cascade effect. Okay, meaning it'll make it easier if you do this. Now other things will become easier. Then try to categorize them based on energy level and then see in a given day, in a given week, when is your energy optimized for that kind of work. Interrogate your calendar to see everything that should and should not be on there, including buffer time. Then batch task. So put in the tasks at those optimal times during the day and the week. Highly encourage focusing on your primary priorities Mondays and Tuesdays, and then do any kind of meetings at the end of the week. Anticipate obstacles, internal and external, identifying the triggers of those obstacles so you can make a plan preventatively and in the moment so that you are not knocked off. Make sure you're taking breaks. This is a marathon. Make sure you're tracking all of this stuff. So again, it's just about 1% improvements every week. And to do that with patience and compassion, I think that is the ultimate key. Ladiesgetpaid.com. It is free to join our community. You can also upgrade to get access to all of our videos. Follow me on Instagram at Ladies Get Paid and also Claire Gets Paid. Guys, we're doing it. So this is probably, I guess I have maybe 84 more days left of lives, Monday through Friday, same time. You can always watch the recording after the fact. Just a moment to check in with ourselves and learn something new. All right. Much love, everyone. You got this.